Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the postgraduate session where we will present a little bit about Master of Public Health and Master of Clinical Research courses. But before I start introducing myself and the team, I would like to start by acknowledging the people of the Kulin Nations on whose land Monash University operates. And I pay my respects to their elders past and present. And if colleagues are based elsewhere, I pay my respects to traditional owners of the land from wherever you may join us. Before we go into kind of the nitty-gritty of everything that the courses are about, I would like to introduce the team that is with us tonight. So my colleague, Dr. Mark Hapgood, coordinating translational medicine specialization, and my colleagues, Ms. Maida O'Keefe and Ms. Maria Guzman from the postgraduate office. I am Professor Daniela Gashevich, and I lead the postgraduate and professional education programs here in the School of Public Health and Preventive Medicine. So tonight, we will present a little bit about Master of Public Health and Master of Clinical Research. So I kindly ask you to hold off the questions until we finish with the presentations of both the courses, and then we will open it to all the questions. For any questions that you may have, we are more than happy to answer. So when it comes to Master of Public Health, we always ask a question, really, why study a public health, right? So, and with everything that has been happening around us and over the past few years at the population level, what we have seen bushfires, we all experienced COVID, didn't we? Like flood and kind of all episodes that can affect health. So we can also see population demographic change now with population aging. We have seen changes in diet, changes in jobs, epidemics of obesity. Then vaping is coming. So we really need to know how to manage these and what they really mean for long-term health. And that's really where studying Master of Public Health comes in. So why should we study Master of Public Health, and why do it at Monash? So we would start that I would like to say that School of Public Health and Preventive Medicine is one of the biggest schools of public health in Asia Pacific region. We do have a legacy because we offered the first, practically in Victoria, Master of Public Health. What we offer throughout the Master of Public Health, incredible research opportunities. You can engage with various researchers from the Alfred Precinct, where we are based. So that would include Monash University researchers, but also researchers from the Alfred Health Baker Institute and also Burnett Institute. You are already aware about the rankings of the Monash University and School of Public Health and Preventive Medicine. They're really high. And what you can expect when you come and when you start learning and when you start attending the workshops, lectures, and sessions is that many of our lecturers are clinician researchers bringing kind of real-world experience to the curriculum. We nurture sense of belonging for the students, especially when we are talking about international students. And what is really important is what we nurturing sense of belonging, but also having that collegial atmosphere. Depending on whether you're international students or domestic students, there are flexible study options, and courses are designed with busy working professionals in mind. So on this really kind of picturesque slide, what we wanted to show is what are the things and what you can encounter if you come to School of Public Health and Preventive Medicine. This school is very well known for clinical registries and biobanks, and this is very important because you will be having, if you decide to go down that path, is to engage in research. For example, having a research specialization or engaging in particular units that are about research, where you can have hands-on research, and I'll tell about that a little bit later. This is where you have this breadth of data and access to data that you can actually start designing your own studies and doing the analysis and interpretation. You can see that we have various, as you can see, clinical trials in innovation. We have population-based studies, global health, public health genomics, health program implementation, evaluation, workplace and environmental health, health service management, climate change and health policy, law and advocacy. So if you think of this breadth of knowledge and breadth of experience and breadth of clinical research and public health, that's why you can see why it's an excellent decision to study in the School of Public Health and Preventive Medicine. When it comes to actual Master of Public Health, I would like to just let you know a little bit of more kind of administrative points of view, what you can expect, because we have, looking at the course structure, we have 3 entry levels. So if you're just coming out of your bachelor degree, then this is a 2-year program or 4-year part-time program. These 96 credit points, this is kind of the length of the study, and each unit is about 6 credit points, and research units are a little bit longer. Then there is an entry point of 72 credit points where we needed like undergraduate degree in a related discipline plus 2 year of work experience. And that 72 credit point length of the Master of Public Health is 1.5 years, a year and a half full-time, and about 3 years of part-time study. And there is the third entry point, which is a 48 credit point, and that one, what is usually when people already have a lot of work experience, or they have a medical doctor degree or PhD degree. But what I would encourage you, because there are kind of nuances in entry in each one of these points, so what I would encourage you to actually go to Study at Monash website and read for each one of these entry points what are the requirements before you decide which entry point is for you and which one you're aiming towards. As I mentioned about these nuances, there are, from what I explained in the previous slide, we do offer 72 credit point pathway for Bachelor of Biomedical Sciences, and also Bachelor of Health Science and Bachelor of Public Health. But as I mentioned on the website, and we can discuss it tonight also if you're interested, on the website you can read, if you're coming from any of these degrees, you can read what are the prerequisites for you to get into the 72 credit point length or Master of Public Health. So what is really, what is kind of signature of our Master of Public Health program is that we do have specialization. So if you are interested in a particular program and you would like to specialize in epidemiology or global planetary health or health economics or health policy, health promotion, or to go into the research pathway, research specialization, there is a need to do the core subjects, and we can talk about that. This is epidemiology, biostatistics, public health. You can see here on the left, professional practice and research methods. So those are the core subjects. And then in order to specialize, you are doing additional set of units that are specially prescribed for that particular specialization. So if you see here in this rectangle, like in this box, you can see that those additional units for specialization in epidemiology would be infectious disease epidemiology and chronic disease epidemiology units, then demography, regression methods, and then we leave you to have certain electives if you're interested. So why enrolling? What are you going to get out of this program, and what are you going to learn? So something that is really crucial nowadays in public health, and that is, like epidemiology and biostatistics, those tools that will help you in public health. So we will teach you how to analyze and interpret health data. So then what is crucial is evidence-based practice. So we will teach you how to critically assess public health literature and understand study design. What is really important is now to apply that public health knowledge and skills to a variety of public health challenges that will be outlined throughout the units, and assume leadership and management skills that are needed in the health sector, communicate public health concepts and findings to colleagues and the public. So this translational potential and communication, you need to become like a good knowledge broker so that your colleagues and the public can understand your findings. Then to create, implement, and evaluate public health programs. So we give you that opportunity through our units and through our specific assessments, and understand and use health economics principles and design and analyze public health policy. I mentioned earlier that we are always striving towards giving you hands-on research, and that's why we are designing units where that is going to be possible, where you can experience that where you can experience research and engage in research in every step of it. So we have a unit that is just for that. So that's a practicum unit, an industry placement unit, which is conducted in the workplace. And what is required for that unit is like you will be placed 20 hours per week and engaging in research. What is the type of placement? Why we say it's flexible, because sometimes students have a wish to be in a particular placement. Sometimes we can help them with them, or students can identify their own placement. But what is really important is that this unit or entering in this unit is highly competitive. And even if we say minimum mark of 65 in all units, our units students who are taking this particular unit are usually like at the distinction, like over 75. We do say, and we do encourage students to try to find their own placement, to find their placement. We would help them if they don't, of course. And why we encourage that? Because we want to also to nurture and to build networking skills. So that is very also important in public health. So when we talk about job prospects, and that is very common question, and I will show you later a beautiful map that was designed by my colleague, Dr. Mark Hapgood. And why we are talking about public health and clinical research masters together, because many of these skills are translatable, and people from both Master of Public Health and Master of Clinical Research can apply for many of the similar roles. And you can see here where the common places or industries where our students work or our graduates work. That would be universities, Department of Health, or in the government organizations. It could be local council. It could be non-for-profit organizations. Then pharmaceutical industry, health insurance. And here in this box, there are just some of the job titles that our students or our graduates, let's say, are working in. So like as a research officer, research coordinator, project officer, epidemiologist, data scientist and analyst, environmental health officer, health promotion officer, as already mentioned, research associate or a coordinator. So our students and our graduates, you can see these are just two examples of colleagues who completed our programs, and of course, there are many more, and you can find some of their stories on the website of our School of Public Health and Preventive Medicine. And I strongly encourage you actually to do and see those and read about those fantastic stories and experiences. Many people would go and continue into PhD and then, continue towards academia, but many others actually would go and work in the research institutes or work for the Department of Health or like for government and non-for-profit organizations. So we also, if you would like just to explore whether this is for you, we have professional certificates in public health and epidemiology. There are only 2 units that are needed to complete these professional certificates. And many of our students, well, the feedback is that they need those professional certificates and they would like to complete them so they can become more competitive in jobs. Like they may not have, because of large pressures of work and clinical work, they may not have time to go to the full masters, but they would do professional certificates. But this is also an excellent pathway because many of them would start and they fall in love into public health and then continue either into graduate certificate or graduate diploma in public health, or actually graduate certificate in epidemiology, public health and health promotion, and go using those kind of degrees into direct entry or pathway onto the Master of Public Health. So what we continuously do is like we are listening and we are responding to the needs of our students, and we are designing units in response to our students' needs, but also industry needs and of course, industry and government needs. We are working and all with a goal to make our students and our graduates more job ready. So that's why we are constantly revising our electives and adding new units. So we added 2 new introductory health economic units. Also, we added social media and health promotion, health data analytics to respond to the great need for data analysts, then culture, society, and public health, and planetary health. And our masters in data analytics also offer some interesting subjects for students who really like more kind of computer science subjects, and which we will also approve as electives. So I would like to stop here and just change the slides quickly. We can answer your question shortly about all the programs. So if you can just have a quick break so I can put our slides for just one minute break, please. We just disappeared from slide deck. Okay. We've been changing them. Sorry about that. Okay, open. I apologize, I just opened it, so just to share with everyone. Okay, I hope everyone can see Master of Clinical Research, right? Data. So I discussed a little bit about Master of Public Health course, and now I will say a few words about Master of Clinical Research. The first portion, I will discuss the clinical research specialization, and then my colleague, Dr. Mark Hapgood, will be discussing translational medicine specialization. So what Mark and I like to start with, and this is a really lovely slide that Mark prepared. What we like to start with is where this Master of Clinical Research after you graduate can take you, right? So everybody is asking about the jobs, and this is something that everybody's interested in. And we like to start with these types of jobs. So before we start talking about jobs, I just wanted to say that this is a very specific program where you choose specialization right from the start and identifying your interest, whether you would like to go to translational medicine pathway or you would like to go to a clinical research pathway. So what is the difference? Like if you are interested in clinical research, that means you're mostly interested in kind of studying interventions in people, you're closer to the bedside. While if you're interested in translational medicine, it is you are getting closer to the bench, but actually translational medicine often is broader, covering the entire kind of pipeline of discovery, development, and implementation, because everything is about getting discoveries from the lab into the clinic and eventually into population health practice. So with the clinical research, main focus is really studies. We are focusing on studies involving human participants, so there could be patients or healthy volunteers. And what we do, like test interventions, diagnostics, treatments, or various preventative measures in people. And some examples, and something you will be exposed during the study of the clinical research masters, will be randomized controlled trials. For example, a new drug, one of the assessments is to design one actually. Then various observational studies of risk factors, evaluating surgical techniques, for example. And where can we work, right? Like where do we go from that? If you go for Master of Clinical Research, you can see like a range of jobs, whether that's health administration, data analysis and management, or epidemiology research. So what are the skills? We will equip you with the skills that are going to fuel these jobs and make you job ready. So that will be public health research or health policy, research education. We have people getting into medical writers position. As you can see, as we are transitioning more into some of them, like in clinical trials, both people from translational medicine and clinical research. But then we have technology transfer, intellectual property, various startup companies, medical AI, medical devices, biotech and drug industry. And in these more kind of orange, you can see that if you're going into translational medicine, these are probably the top choices for our translational medicine graduates, and the bottom are more top choices for our clinical research graduates. But I would like to strengthen that during the clinical research master's program, you will be equipped with skills that are easily translatable to any of these jobs. It is just like, what is the content? So skills may be the same that you will be studying. Some may be a little bit different, but practically our graduates can apply to any of these jobs. As I mentioned, this is a very specific master's, how it's organized, that you choose either clinical research specialization or translational medicine specialization from the get-go. So I would kindly ask you to look at a study at Monash, to look at all these entry requirements, and I will mention some here for a clinical research specialization. Same as public health, we have 3 entry levels. One is the 96 grade point length, that is a 2-year full-time and 4 years part-time. And usually people who are finishing bachelor's degree and at least having a score of 60, when 60% they would be eligible, 60% or more, they would be eligible for entry level 1. So entry level 2, which is a 1.5, like a 1.5 year full-time study of 72 credit points. And we are like the same entry criteria for the level 1. We are just adding minimum of 1 year of relevant work experience. And also if people have honors, medical degree, or Monash University bachelor degree in public health and health sciences, they're also eligible for this entry of 72 credit points. And we have entry level 3 or 48 credit points, where people who are having higher level degrees like masters, PhDs, and minimum 2 years of relevant work experience. And there are some other options for entry level 48. So please just have a look at study at Monash. But when we think these are the learning outcomes that actually apply to both specializations, and we kind of adapt them also based on whether you're in clinical research or translational medicine. But what are the things that you're going to learn? Is competently search the scientific literature. This is very important. So that's why as part of your academic journey here, or curriculum journey, you will be learning how to do systematic reviews and meta-analysis. It is very important in this evidence-based medicine world to know how to critically appraise and interpret scientific literature to inform clinical practice and future research. And what students probably love the most when they have hands-on on designing their own research. So you will be independently designing and executing kind of small clinically related research study, analyze and interpret data and communicate findings, and communicate theoretical and practical knowledge regarding safe and ethical conduct of clinically related research study to research and clinical professionals. And of course, putting it all together and applying your knowledge and skills to demonstrate autonomy, expert judgment, adaptability, and responsibility to address a range of clinical and research problems that are kind of relevant for any of these levels, community, national, international, or global. But let's see, how do we put all of this into practice? So what is the curriculum journey? When is the course journey? So in the first year, you will be working on some core units because, as I mentioned, epidemiology, biostatistics, and many others are your tools that are needed so that you can apply or design or apply later any of the studies, interpret, analyze, and everything. So you will, in the first year, you will need to finish introductory epidemiology, introductory biostatistic, practical data management, introductory health economics. And in semester 2 of year 1, and then once you gained knowledge about introductory epidemiology, biostatistic management, then now you're applying that into research methods. I mentioned how important ethics and good research practice is, so that's why you're in clinical research. That's why we are having this unit. I mentioned how crucial in clinical research is to know how to prepare systematic review and meta-analysis, but also to critically evaluate it. So you will have that course. We are leaving you some space for electives so that you can potentially choose the units that work best to where you're headed, kind of, and where you would like to find a job. Then in year 2, we are working on clinical trials, so that's one of our signature units, and regression methods for epidemiology. And then taking it all together, you are now having research in a professional practice and advanced health practice research project, where you are applying over the course of a year everything you learned, and you're going to, it almost look like a small thesis where you will crown all your knowledge, having hands-on research where you're going to design the study. Of course, you have a supervisor you will be working, or supervisory team you will be working with. You will be designing your own research project with them, analyzing the data, interpreting the data, discussing the implications of your study results for clinical practice, health policy, and future research. So as I mentioned, you will have a couple of electives, and in those electives you can choose additional. There's a list of electives you can choose depending on what you're interested in and what type of job you would like to do, so you can further enhance your knowledge. So I would stop here and invite my colleague, Dr. Mark Hapgood, to tell us a few words about translational medicine specialization. So Mark, I just unshared.
Can I share this from my end?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So slideshow, and then share. Can you see that screen?
Yes.
I don't seem to be able to go forward or back.
We see your back. We don't see the slides, Mark. Just
okay.
Maybe share another screen.
I'll share another screen. Desktop 2. How about that one?
I think it's coming up. Yes, excellent.
Okay, thanks, Daniela. So the other specialization that we have within the Master of Clinical Research is the translational medicine specialization. And what we mean by translational medicine, as Daniela previously alluded to, spoke about, is it's this bench to bedside continuum. And it's how we take innovative research findings that come from academic research. How do we get them into something that can be applied in the clinic or in the hospital to actually alter the health outcomes for patients? And it's quite a process that's involved in it. The idea is the sorts of things that can be translated. They can be new drugs, new drug targets that you've discovered, or it may be biomarkers. So biomarkers are very useful for industry for testing whether drugs actually are doing what we think they're doing. It could be new diagnostics that are useful, or it could be even repurposed therapies, using them for a new application. To get them along this pathway, they need to then go through preclinical development, where the initial idea is then translated into a physical lead compound, or it could be a prototype. And that involves finding finance to fund that research, developing it until it's in the state that it can actually be given to a human in clinical trial testing. So it's safe to be put into humans to test whether it's effective. And then ultimately, if it gets through the clinical trials, it can then be registered with the TGA or the FDA and be adopted into clinical practice. And this isn't just a one-way process, because the success of getting an innovative idea through to a clinical treatment depends on whether or not that idea meets a clinical need. If there's no need for it, it's not going to advance along this pathway. So it's a two-way process, and we have a lot of clinicians that teach into our units that give us updates and on what are the current unmet clinical needs in the clinic, so that research can be directed towards those, and people will bear them in mind. So having said all that, this is the structure of the translational medicine specialization. It's very similar to Daniela spoke for the clinical research. The entry criteria are the same. There's a 72 credit point entry level where you start in the semester 2 and you do half of the first year and the full second year, where you're doing a research project based in a lab or a clinic-based research project, and you're doing a research methods unit that adds to these, providing essential research methods. 96 credit points you'll enter in semester 1. There's some epidemiology and biostatistics, and we have the translational medicine units. Here we have translational bioinformatics, clinical trials, translation pathways, translational medicine, and systematic reviews. And we've included this in here, as Daniela spoke about. It's really fundamental that you're able to critically analyze what's currently known. If you're going to advance research, you need to base it on solid foundations. And to do that, you have to be able to critically analyze the research that's out there to identify what is reproducible and you can be confident about, and that you can't. The next slide here. So some of the things that you will learn as you go through. In the clinical trials unit, it's a different focus than the clinical trials that Daniela spoke about for the clinical research. Here it's more the practicalities of clinical trials, and you'll be placed on a clinical trial as part of the staff in order to see how clinical trials are managed and coordinated, and what are the logistics of how you actually run a clinical trial in the hospital environment. You'll also learn about human ethics, the ethics of clinical trials, and you'll do that through reviewing a clinical trial proposal. You'll also design your own clinical trial and pitch that to an audience. The development pathways, which is taking the next step back from the clinical trial, you'll learn about how to identify translation potential, what sort of things can be translated. You'll develop a business strategy in order to get the funding you need to develop these ideas. You're going to need to attract money from people who have it. And that can be partly from grants, but mostly you will need investors to support that. And so you'll learn about communicating science to commercial environments as well as to the lay public. The translational medicine unit is a unit that we have that supports the research project that you do in your second year. And it gives you a foundation in all of these discipline areas: neuroscience and metabolic disorders such as diabetes, immunology and hematology. And you can choose from within this unit the areas that are of most interest to you. And here you'll do critical analysis of what the current unmet needs are. You'll come up with proposals of how to address some of those needs. You'll create graphic abstracts to communicate those needs to wider audiences. And you'll do an investigative approach where you look at what is the current state of commercialization in those areas. There's a bioinformatics unit where you learn about genomic analysis, transcriptomic analysis, and you'll learn and practice how to use Python and R to analyze large data sets. In the research sphere, this is a full year project. You'll be based in either an academic research lab that's working in a translational area of your interest. It may be a cohort-based study based on patient data from a study that's currently ongoing with clinicians, so you'll be based in a clinic. Or it may be based on clinical data, such as from a registry, where you're retrospectively trying to identify things from registry patient data. That gives you a bit of an overview. Some of the skills that you'll develop, we have a big focus on critical analysis. That's a very key part of all of the units that we have. There's a lot of teamwork involved. We get you working in groups as teams. Teamwork and leadership are very valued attributes by employers and by potential project supervisors. So having skills in those areas is really valuable. There's a huge focus on communication, and in the health field, you need to be able to speak the language of all of the stakeholders. You need to be able to communicate science, significance of science to academics who work in an academic environment. You need to be able to communicate it to clinicians in the clinical world. You need to communicate it to potential investors who have got commercial interests. And you need to communicate it to the lay public and to policymakers in government. You'll also do quite a lot of creative thinking, problem solving, and public speaking. So I'll probably leave it there and hand back to Daniela. We can answer any questions you might have in the question and answer section.
Thank you very much. We were just typing, all of us, to respond to some of your questions, and I was halfway saying, responding to one of the questions, stating where actually the Master of Public Health will take place. I started typing for clinical research. So Master of Public Health, I know that saying Alfred Hospital, it's actually Alfred Precinct. And for Master of Public Health, the majority of our work is in 553 St. Kilda Road, which is the School of Public, where School of Public Health and Preventive Medicine is based. For clinical research specialization, it will be similar, so same at the School of Public Health and Preventive Medicine and building, so 553 St. Kilda Road, while for the translational medicine, it will be in Alfred Center. So all of these buildings, both of these buildings or other buildings where we have our lectures are really in the vicinity, in a close proximity. So it's like a 5-minute walk, and it is located in Melbourne. So I'm just going to open. So I'll stop typing that I responded to that question. So there are a couple of open questions. So one of the questions, yeah, this is really interesting one. I've seen that some health promotion officer roles only require a Bachelor of Health Science or relevant study. True. And how would a Master's of Public Health with specialization in health promotion involve a more advanced role? So this is really a great question, and it is true that with having a bachelor's degree, you would be well prepared kind of for health promotion officer roles. But those are majority of the roles that focus kind of on delivery and supporting the program. So what we are teaching in Master of Public Health with the health promotion specialization is how you're going to step up and kind of go into more advanced roles. So that will be how to design interventions, how to lead teams, so kind of building on your leadership skills, how you can engage stakeholders, how you can evaluate impact. So there is a big emphasis on evaluation, on program evaluation in health promotion specialization. So what is happening is that once you finish your bachelor, you are kind of doing the health promotion, right? That's you in that officer role for doing the health promotion, delivering and supporting programs. While once you finish the Master of Public Health, now you're shaping that health promotion and evaluating and stepping up into leadership roles. So it just opens the door for some more advanced roles in designing interventions, leading teams, as I mentioned, and kind of engaging stakeholders and evaluating programs. So several units in clinical research have similar unit codes to public health, Master of Public Health. Does that mean that the two disciplines are cross-related? So you're absolutely right. Like you noticed that really well. Many of our course units, so that will be epidemiology, biostatistics, and some other, there are core units that are a foundation or tools that are needed for both clinical research and for public health. So that's why getting those skills, regardless of which pathway you kind of start in, getting those skills is essential. Going into those units is essential for mastering these skills, and that's why I mentioned that many of these are kind of translatable, and you can apply for multiple jobs in both public health and in clinical research because they share those tools, and they have a common knowledge that is foundational, that is necessary for both programs. So yes, you noted well, our students usually come into, whether they're in public health or clinical research, both groups start with epidemiology and introductory biostatistics. If one didn't achieve a WAM of 60% in bachelor, what should they do to fill in the gap in entry requirement? Maida, do you by any chance know?
I'm thinking about that.
So we could ask and get back. But,
what I would generally say is that students must meet the minimum entry requirements, and that is the minimum entry. So I don't know, other than doing a graduate certificate or graduate diploma elsewhere, I'm not sure, to be honest. We could get back to you.
I think that'll be great. What is the entry for a professional certificate? Is it also 60% or lower?
So that's only eligible for domestic students.
Oh, okay. Okay. One of the colleagues mentioned, thank you for detailed information session. I'd like to ask if it's a hard requirement to secure an advisor before starting application into the MPH program. So I assume you're thinking about the supervisors, right, into the placements, research placements. So no, there is no need to do that ahead of time. We definitely help and advise and help you along the road. So definitely not needed ahead of time. Yeah, and there is also a lot of time before you get into that research space. So we will help you, yeah, definitely along the road to identify a supervisor, unless you find one, you know, like during the sessions. How it works usually is that when we start in introductory epidemiology, that is your first unit, and my colleague, Dr. Nazmul Karim, and I teach that unit. So we give you a lot of information about the programs, whether it's a Master of Public Health and Master of Clinical Research. We inform you about, we give you examples from various research that is happening in school and outside school. We give you examples of supervisors. We bring our colleague, Dr. Stella Talic, who leads the research placement unit. Dr. Mark Hepgood would come and talk about the placements in translational medicine. So before the time comes that you need to choose the placement and be into the placement, you will be very well equipped about various research that is happening in the school and which way you would like to kind of to head and what research you would like to be involved in. So I don't see any other questions. So we will get back to you about not achieving WAM 50%. So we will get in touch with Central and ask more about it. What are the potential options, and get back to you. So are there any other questions that colleagues would like to ask related to Master of Public Health or Master of Clinical Research program?
There's a couple of questions there now.
They're coming up.
Yeah.
What can an international aspiring student do to lower the cost of tuition, or rather to gain scholarship that will help reduce the cost of tuition? We do have a website that presents various opportunities for scholarships, but unfortunately, I'm not sure if there is one for master's program. There are certain programs that international students are kind of coming with funded, like programs in their own countries when international students come, like with scholarships from their own countries to do the Master of Public Health or Master of Clinical Research, but I'm not aware of any scholarships that could reduce the tuition fee. But please also you may check our Monash website for further. So which specialization in MPH provides the most hands-on work? or clinical work in a lab setting. So if you're interested more in hands-on clinical work in a lab setting, I would advise to go into Master of Clinical Research, Master of Clinical Research master's program, and then apply for translational medicine specialization. So Mark, can you please say a few words about the actual research program that is 1 year long that students undertake in translational medicine as part of translational medicine specialization?
Yes, so the second year part of the translational medicine specialization, you will develop a research lab-based project, or it will be a patient cohort-based project. For the lab-based projects, we have a huge number of laboratories actively working in translational research here in the Alfred Centre as part of Monash, but also in the adjacent Australian Centre for Blood Diseases, at the Burnett Centre, and also in the Baker Institute. So we have a large booklet of research projects, which are areas those labs are working on, that they put up each year. And from that, you can choose several that you are interested in, and you then approach the supervisor in those labs and get to meet with them and decide on a project that you'd like to do. And the project can be range from all sorts of things. It can be research work involving cell lines. It could be research involving animal work, or it could be research work involving database studies or imaging studies, MRIs, PET scans, those sorts of things. You'll work that out between you and the supervisor. We can help you with introductions. We know most of the research labs here, and we can advise you on, based on what your interests are, who would be the best place to go to be well supported in those research labs. During that
Mark,
year,
sorry, there is another question about that, so maybe you can add to, it says in the translational specialization, do we have the research topic implementing new drug target to clinical trial? And is it possible for us to take it as our research project? So you can just continue, but maybe thinking about this question too.
Yes, so that question really depends on the research project and the lab that you're talking to. For some of the new drugs, they possibly might not put you on that new drug research because it will have commercial potential, and so it will have patent protection, in which case you wouldn't be able to disclose much of it in your thesis. So for the research project, you'll work on experiments, you'll collect data, you'll write up a thesis that will then be examined, and you'll have presentations of your results and data. So it really depends on the lab you go into, but you probably won't be working on a brand new drug that someone's identified, because that needs to be kept confidential. Like the question about which specialization has the most job opportunities. Well, I'm not sure I can answer that one.
The question is, which specialization in Master of Public Health has the most job opportunities in general, kind of associated? So we mentioned that Master of Public Health has several specializations, and that's epidemiology, global health, health economics, health policy, health promotion, and research track or research stream. It is very hard to say, go into epidemiology and you'll find all the jobs of this world, right? Like all of these specialization, I think all of these specializations, regardless of which specialization you complete, you will have a wide range of options to get a job, like with a Master of Public Health, or to apply for. So what I would encourage you, and what I encourage all the students in the program when we discuss job opportunities and job readiness, I would advise you to choose the specialization that you're passionate about, because you will be heading toward the job that you are passionate about, that you want to dedicate your time to, that you want to specialize in and master in and become proficient in. I'm always saying we spend the majority of our time working and sleeping, so you might as well choose the specialization you're passionate about and you will be enjoying working in. So regardless of which specialization you finish, if you remember that figure that I showed that Mark created, you can apply practically your skills in any of those jobs.
The skills that you develop are applicable to almost any career pathway that you go into. Critical thinking, problem solving, being able to publicly speak, present information, communication. That doesn't matter which field you go into. If you've got good skills in those, you'll be valuable to any employer.
That's really true. We have a question. Do we require WES transcript evaluation, Maida?
I think that's a question for admissions. So for current students, they probably accept WES transcript, but for, well, it'd only be current students. So I think that, yeah, I would guess that, yes, that should be fine.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions that you're curious about and that you would like us to answer? So to do the Master of Clinical Research, I need to first obtain invitation to apply with the supervisor before being able to actually apply.
No, so they can apply for the course first and then apply to do their research.
Yes, so what we discussed earlier, Mark and I can just reiterate a little bit. So you don't have to meet the supervisor in any of the either clinical research specialization or translational medicine specialization. So you're starting with the core units, and those core units will enable you to learn more about the research that is happening, like more about clinical research, more about translational research, and where your passion lies. And we usually try to kind of meet that passion and to team you with the supervisor where your interests lie, of course, if such research is available. But those core units in translational medicine that Mark discussed and that I discussed are really essential to help you understand what type of research exists and what you would like to do your research in your final year.
Mm.
So we are getting closer to the end of the session. So if you have any additional questions, please pop them into question and answer, and we'll be more than happy to respond.
Probably in addition to your last answer is you won't know all of the research that's going on in the Alfred site. And so you don't need to commit to a particular research pathway until you're aware of all that's going on and you've found one that really excites you.
So our colleague mentioned if you have further questions, please contact us as Postgraduate Inquiry, Monash Education. You can also get in touch with us and ask any questions you may have about the research program. And there's another question. And so this would apply for students planning to do this part-time. Was it related to choosing the supervisor or to something else? Sorry, if you could. So if it's related to the supervisor, whether it's part-time or full-time, it is the same. You don't need a supervisor ahead. Translational medicine is only offered full-time, Mark, isn't it, for
the research project?
For the research part, so that is important to, yes, choosing the supervisor. So no, whether it's a part-time in clinical research specialization or full-time, you're not choosing the supervisor. So you're enrolling into the course, you start learning, and then along the journey, we are introducing you to various research opportunities. And then with Dr. Stella Talic, you will be discussing the placement. When it comes to translational medicine, research is because of the laboratory and working with specimens and tissues, they can offer only full-time entry.
Yeah, for database projects, patient clinical database, it is possible to do quite a bit of that in your own time. So that's not, it doesn't have the same requirement to be present in the lab. So you could work at different times because you're working supervised a lot alone, and then you're just meeting with your supervisor at regular times. But we have some domestic students that are working a part-time job and doing those projects.
Oh, thank you so much, Krish. So any additional questions, please get in touch with our postgraduate inquiries. Email was sent in the webinar chat, and we would be more than happy to reply to any other questions you may have. Okay, there's one more question. I have 4 years bachelor degree in biotechnology with 1 year research experience. Do you recommend I do master's or go ahead for PhD? So these are very kind of hard decisions, and it's very hard to recommend because as I mentioned, it kind of depends where you're seeing yourself and what you would like to do and accomplish. So if you're interested in masters, then you're kind of evaluating the entry pathway. If you're interested in PhD, it opens other doors, right? Like it opens other doors for job opportunities. And in that case, we would advise you to check the Monash University requirements for a PhD degree. If you're an international student, we accept international students via Monash International Student Scholarship. It is a very competitive program, so I think it will be great if you check out the requirements, because oftentimes needs to be a degree from highly ranked university in the country, and also students to have publications in like grades, but also publications in Q1 journals. Will Masters of Research Translational Medicine is online for students who are working professional and live in Australia? Yes, if students are in Australia, we do have many of our units in the clinical research have option to do online, so online access, and also in translational medicine, many of the core units could be done online. However, Mark, can you please comment for online access, because many of units are actually face-to-face because of the group work. So Mark.
Yes, many of the core units in the translational medicine have face-to-face workshops where you're student-led and discussing with experts, and they do actually require you to be on campus for those. Several workshops can be run by Zoom, but some of the presentations also need to be face-to-face as we have a large audience for them. So most of those units you wouldn't be able to do online from remotely.
Yes. So Mayday is responding to a couple of questions related to applying for credit score and expression of interest. Application of line, Mayday, can you please also answer that expression of interest? Yeah, thank you. While Mayday is we are really at the end of our session. Please get in touch. There is an email address here in the webinar chat if you have any additional comments and questions. Thank you so much for being tonight with us and for asking these fantastic questions about both of the programs. And we hope to see you next year working with us and learning with us. And as I mentioned, ask any questions you may have using the postgraduate inquiry email. And I wish you all a great night wherever you are, and all the best. Thank you. We hope to see you next year.
Thank you all.